这碗酒竟带有共匪灭在咱的手，好酒。喝了咱的酒啊，看破中共假恶丑。喝了咱的酒啊，咱的心脉得自由。喝了咱的酒啊，心头山河一声吼。喝了咱的酒啊，不灭恶党誓不休。顺天意呀，举九州，真心灭共跟我走。好酒啊，好酒啊，好酒！几十年前共匪传承权力，如今依旧肆虐在中华大地，管天管地管空气，中间还管着你的生殖器。老百姓们活的不如猪狗，人民的财富被他们统统卷走，传统文化全都化为乌有。罗传爷们，你们难道还没受够？这帮孙子天天在搞双休，这封你的口，把你思想左右，看不尽的眼泪不停的流，和谐小康社会，我去你个头！喝了咱的酒啊，看破中共假恶丑。喝了咱的酒啊，咱的心脉得自由。喝了咱的酒啊， 勇当心头，死的未来是我战斗的理由。舍去爱恨情仇，把情抛在脑后，为自由立志共，不言不休。报了革命这碗酒，敬天，敬地，敬战友，新中国联邦人永不为奴，跟我走。神仙阳谷县大县，咱走走看。我们的牧场是谁？夺走我们的牛羊是谁？抹掉我们的语言是谁？剥夺我们的信仰是谁？奴役我们的兄弟是谁？蹂躏我们的妓女是谁？让我们母亲流泪是谁？掐灭孩子的希望是中国共产党。战马就是我的生命，雄鹰是我飞翔的翅膀。踏上母亲缝制的马靴，马奶酒让我藐视死亡。跨上马与狂风对话，迎着黄沙我再次出发。无畏的血水战甲滑落，我的伤口是燃烧的太阳。哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦。希望兄弟们站起来反抗，英雄故事必被后代传唱。我们是勇士的民族，过去的血在身上流淌，神圣的母语放声高喊，我还们能赢猴子大呀！哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦，哦嘿呦。 咱究竟占有共匪灭在咱的手。好酒。喝了咱的酒啊，看破中共假恶丑。喝了咱的酒啊，咱的心脉得自由。喝了咱的酒啊，心头山河一声吼。喝了咱的酒啊，不灭恶党誓不休。顺天意呀，举九州，真心烈公跟我走。好酒啊，好酒啊，好酒！几十年前共匪团的权力，如今依旧肆虐在中华大地。管天管地管空气，中间还管着你的生殖器。老百姓们活的不如猪狗，人民的财富被他们统统卷走，传统文化全都化为乌有。惹上爷们你们难道还没受够？这帮孙子天天在搞双休，这封你的口，把你思想左右，看不尽的眼泪不停的流，和谐小康社会我去你个头！喝了咱的酒啊，看破中共假恶丑。喝了咱的酒啊，咱的心脉得自由。喝了咱的酒啊，气冲山河一声吼。喝了咱的酒啊，不灭恶党誓不休。顺天意呀，举九州，真心烈公跟我走。好酒啊，好酒啊，好酒！正义将琴酒交到你的手，天南地北从此与我便是战友。我和城市走肉，抗争不分先后，传播真相不管黑夜白昼。干了10碗酒，豪气涌上心头，子孙的未来是我战斗的理由。舍去爱恨情仇，不敢去抛在脑后，为自由灭中共，不言不休。报了革命这碗酒，敬天敬地敬战友，新中国联邦人永不为奴，跟我走！神仙阳谷县大县，咱走走看。
Good evening, Fringers. Thank you for joining us and welcome to episode 49. I can't believe it. Episode 49 of The Fringe. I am David Vincent Bob and I'm your host. Today is Friday, July 16th, 2021. The Fringe is brought to you live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. That's 1900 to 2000, my people in China. 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on gtv.org at MOS English, and it's also on YouTube at MOS Talk. I want to thank you again for joining us this evening, and I'd like to thank my host for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to give a nice warm welcome to my co-host, Daniel. Daniel, welcome back to the show. Great to see you again, my friend.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me again, David.
Anytime, man. Great to see you again. So we've had a lot, as usual, we've had a lot going on this week ever since Tuesday. As everybody knows, there's a whole lot going on within the GTV universe. We won't get into that too much tonight. I want to touch more on topics within the U.S. and China and our relations going on there. But as everyone knows, there's a lot going on within our own little world here at GTV with Luda and Dr. Yan and Dr. Lawrence selling out. We actually have a show coming up on Tuesday, Daniel, that I'm going to be doing with Isla, and the show is going to be called Selling Out. And it's going to be very, very informative. It's going to be all about these protests we have going on and why we are protesting, what's actually going on, what's all the hubbub, what's going on within the in our universe right now, in our GTV universe, and there's been a shakeup. Some heads got too big, finger pointing started, and we took to the streets. So looking forward to that. But first, we got to get through this. Again, Daniel, great to have you. So let's get into it. Again, we're gonna talk about the hottest topics right now, and as we talked about on Tuesday with Isla, Daniel and I are going to talk to you a little bit about the Delta variant. As you saw in our little mashup in the beginning there, I'd like to thank Joanna from China for doing that for us. The Delta variant makes up more than half of the new COVID cases. And we're going to take a look at that video right now and see what's going on with the Delta. Let's roll that now, please, Matthew. Thank you.
The summer spike is catching experts by surprise who never expected numbers like these. Tonight, new infections, hospitalizations, even deaths are increasing when many predicted they would be at all-time lows. In Missouri, more COVID patients are filling beds than during the deadly winter surge. Hospitals here pleading for more doctors.
The tidal wave is coming towards our unvaccinated population. This variant is spreading quickly, and this variant has the ability to devastate those in its wake.
After accounting for just 0.1% of cases in April, the dangerous, highly contagious Delta variant now makes up nearly 60% of new cases. As infections double, vaccinations are plummeting, down 54% last week.
Have you had yours yet?
As more states go door-to-door offering at-home vaccinations, tonight a new report says the Tennessee Department of Health will stop all adolescent vaccine outreach amid pressure from Republican lawmakers. The agency says they're reevaluating their process and wouldn't comment on former medical director Michelle Fiskus, who says she was fired after efforts to get teens vaccinated at school.
The children that are not going to get vaccinated if they're not vaccinated at school. And that is the travesty that's here. That's the injustice.
With 60% of children who are eligible for vaccination still not inoculated, many fear with the return to school and after a summer together, a fall surge is imminent.
The Delta variant is going to move its way through the country over the course of August and September, maybe into October. Unfortunately, the worst is yet to come. It's going to get worse before it gets better in terms of the spread of this infection right now.
Miguel, we've been talking about rural communities. What's happening in larger cities?
Well, Lester, several big cities are reporting a substantial rise in COVID cases after having just a few. Here in L.A. County, COVID cases are up 500% over the last month, and with the Delta variant circulating, the positivity rate has skyrocketed 700%.
David, I think you're muted.
Yeah, par for the course for me. I'm usually muted. I don't want to hear myself talk sometimes. Anyway, sorry about that, everyone. But what I was saying, Daniel, is before you became a host, we for several episodes we talked about the Delta variant. Isla and I, Ada and I, about how it ravaged India. And about a quarter of the country was affected by it. And we, obviously through reading and watching what we were seeing, we figured out that it was happening because in India is like a third world country, and they didn't have the supplies that they needed to fight this thing. What they're saying now, though, is, and you and I talked about this, and it was an interesting point you brought up. Daniel and I had some of the best conversations we have probably are before the show or during the commercials. Well, we don't have commercials, but before the show or after, and then we discuss what we're going to talk about. But not only do we have a new variant, they're talking about boosters for variants, right, Daniel?
Absolutely, David. They're talking about, I believe, the third booster shot now.
Yeah. So for every variant, they're talking about having a new booster for the new variant. Yet, if they're saying that now, what this report said, and here's the thing, man, with this, Daniel, is that this was NBC. So I don't usually listen to them anyway, but this is the report that was handed to me that I'm using. NBC is saying that this vaccine, or this new variant, which we know is the Delta variant, is only hitting populations that aren't vaccinated, as they said in this report, that are unvaccinated. If that's true, why do we need booster shots for the people that are vaccinated? Wouldn't that mean that it's also hitting people that are vaccinated? I see, that's the thing. You listen to these things and you kind of just you let all the fog clear, and you listen to what they're saying, and you realize what they just said goes against exactly what they said the minute sometimes before what they just said, or the episode before what they just said. So we have the left here and their media saying, well, it's only skipping people, it's only hitting people that aren't vaccinated to scare us, obviously. And we have heard them say this in the past, Daniel. It's only hitting people that aren't vaccinated. It's only hitting young children, and it's only hitting pregnant women now. That's what they're saying. So to scare kids into getting vaccinated who don't need to be vaccinated, I think the success rate with kids that their bodies fight these viruses that come through is like 99.9% or whatever it is, 92, 93. It's really, really, really high. It's not any different than the regular flu when a child that has a fully capable immune system fights this. That's why they don't need vaccines. But they're trying to push these vaccines down everyone's throat, which is ridiculous. So, we have the left again siding with whatever they're trying to do here to get these vaccines put in our bodies. I don't know why they're pushing this issue so hard. It's so ridiculous to me, and I just want to get your thoughts on it, Daniel.
Absolutely, David. They contradict themselves every day, and they're trying to create fear and confusion. And let me be clear, the Delta variant is very dangerous, and it is, in fact, highly infectious. It is a serious issue. We're not saying that the Delta variant is not dangerous here. We're just saying that the U.S. is not getting to the root of the problem, which is the Chinese Communist Party. If you cannot rely on booster shots and the vaccine that, well, many people are not going to take ever, that's not how we're going to fight this. I'm pretty sure the Chinese Communist Party is hoping that the U.S. can, shut down its economy once again due to the new variants, because, as we'll talk about this later, but the Chinese economy is indeed slowing down. David.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how this is all working. It's ironic, actually, how this is all working together. So China's economy is slowing down because of other economical issues they're dealing with us and with the rest of the world, and also because people are starting to realize that the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, is behind all of this. So their economy is starting to slow down because people are actually starting to believe, like we've been telling them to believe for over a year now what's really going on here. So in order to make sure that we stay level with them or below them, what do? They release another virus. The Delta variant was probably something that was released only in India and it's spreading now. That was my 2 cents before when the variant first came out. They were attacking the third world country. It spread from there, and now it's going around. It's in Africa, Russia. It is a serious virus. But the more and more this stuff rears its ugly head, I think the more and more people need to realize, as Daniel said and made a great point, that we need to get to the Kamala Harris root cause of what's really going on here. And it's the CCP, it's the Chinese Communist Party. People, there is no vaccine that's being produced that can be the cure or can protect you from any of these variants. The only people that have the cure live in the country of China, and they're called the Chinese Communist Party. And you have to believe that. That's the truth right there. They have the cure for these viruses that they are creating. The first one here, COVID-19, was created in a lab in Wuhan, and they have 100 other labs like it. And like Mr. Miles Guo said just a couple weeks ago, there's another variant they're going to create that's coming out this fall. You think this one's bad and the one after it's bad, wait till the one after that. But, we'll just keep taking our hydroxychloroquine and zinc and letting it bypass us while everybody else panics and, is forced to get a vaccine. And that's the other part of this. The end note I want to talk about, and I wrote a note here, is that they are doing this door-to-door vaccine stuff, Daniel, and the federal government is not authorized to do that. It's illegal for the federal government to knock on your door and say, yeah, we think you should get a COVID shot. So what they do is they, hand the work over to someone else, and your local clergy, they have local support groups, they have local nurses, doctors, whoever they can get to knock on your door and say, hey, here, why you should get the vaccine shot, here's why, blah, blah, blah. Go to my Getter page, gettr.com, go to Getter, look up David Bob 1, David Bobb, the number 1. Join my Getter page, and you'll see a lot about the COVID virus. And actually, the reason I wanted to say this originally was because I posted a sign on my Getter page that you can print out and put on your door, and you tell the vaccine people to leave you alone and go away because it's ridiculous.
That's awesome, David.
Yeah. So go ahead, Dan.
I want to add to another point. Here. I think that I'm pretty sure that the Americans who refuse to take the vaccines now are not going to take it ever, no matter what you say to them, because fundamentally they don't trust it. And today I saw an article saying that the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers such as Pfizer, they are now pushing for booster shots for emergency approval from the Food and Drugs Administration for booster shots. And some U.S. legislators are actually pushing back against this idea. They're saying that booster shots are not needed at this time. I mean, when you have so much confusion and fear and chaos in our country, and these vaccine manufacturers, they're only aiming to make a profit because they're companies after all. So I really believe that the rest of these Americans who haven't been vaccinated are not going to get vaccinated because they fundamentally do not trust this vaccine. David.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, there's two parts to that. It's the first part is that when we keep pushing a narrative, that the truth that we like to tell here is that, everybody's starting to realize that this was created in a lab and it's a lab created virus. You can't make a vaccine for a lab created virus unless you know what the original cause of it is. The root, the person one, whatever it's called, person one or zero person.
Patient zero.
Yeah, thank you.
Exactly.
Is you can't determine until you find that person. And the second part is that even if you do find that person, you got to find the cure, which, again, is being held in lock and key by the Chinese Communist Party. So
exactly.
You made some really great points there. And nobody in America is going to get this vaccine because we know too much. And also, that's the other part is there is so much confusion. Of course, the left blames the right for saying, well, people aren't getting vaccinated. They're saying a large part of the population that isn't getting vaccinated are Republicans, and we're the ones that are going to get the Delta virus and die from it. So, it's just it becomes, whenever a virus becomes political, that's when the issues really start. Because then you have, everybody who believes in this side, the left, believing that this vaccine is going to work, period, no matter what, take it. And then the right saying, I don't know if I want to take this because it's not been proven this was created in a lab. And how can this vaccine work for something it's not created to fight against? It's not. It's even if you had a vaccine that you created to fight against a vaccine that was created in a lab, it's going to do its mutations and it's going to do all that. The variants are going to show up, and that vaccine that you created isn't going to be able to fight the new variant. And that's why you have to get a booster shot. So really what's happening in front of us, Daniel, is they're proving that these vaccines don't work, period. And they not only don't work, they are causing people to die that get injected by this stuff. We've seen way too many cases. I've seen way too many already up to this point of just horrific pictures of people gasping for breath and kids that were never sick before dying from COVID after they get the shot. I don't care if it's one case, and that was, it's just a small percent. I don't care if it's a small 0.09% of the population. If one person dies from a vaccine, something's wrong with it. That's it. That's the way I feel about that.
Great points, David. And
yeah.
Well, if we want to talk about small percentages, COVID-19 is actually not that lethal if you look at the data, David.
Right, it's not. And they are saying, and it seems like with the Delta, who's saying that the Delta is more variant or more lethal? You can't, again, going back to your point, you can't really believe everything you hear these days anyway. So really, Daniel, is the Delta really that much more destructive? Is it? Or are they just saying that? Is it really going to hit only people that weren't vaccinated? I can't believe any of it. I don't know. I'm just going to do what I need to do to stay healthy, what I've been doing. I've been flying. I've been traveling. I've been in large groups of people that are unmasked. And knock on wood, I've had a couple colds, but that's it. I haven't been sick. As a matter of fact, Daniel, I'm going to tell you something. You don't know this about me. I used to get the flu shot religiously every year from the time I was in the military in 1989 until about, I would say 2000, right around 2012, 11 is when I stopped getting the flu shot. And I can tell you this, I got the flu a lot more when I was getting the shot than I did afterwards. And I started thinking about that. I was like, why do I get the flu a lot less now than I did when I was getting the shot? It made no sense to me. So I started, that's kind of what made me buy into my decision of not getting this shot. If I'm taking the flu shot and I'm getting the flu more than I'm getting without the shot, something's definitely wrong here. So, it was just one day. I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm not going to get the flu shot this year. I want to see what happens. And I didn't. And I didn't get sick. And I haven't had the flu since. And I haven't had COVID. Knock on wood again. Pray to God every day that, that I'm doing the right thing. But my body keeps proving it to me over and over again that I am. So I'm going to stay the course, man. And it's something else, Daniel, when you're dealing with this thing and trying to come to grips with it. And you want to tell people what to do and you want to help them, but you don't want to see anyone die because of the advice you gave them. That's not my job. My job is to just do what I've been doing, taking the hydroxy and the zinc and still wear my mask and keep my social distance until this thing gets under control and they take down the CCP and get the real cure for this virus, Daniel. That's it.
Exactly, David.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get off of that topic. I don't want to talk about the Delta variant anymore. Let's just move on here. We're probably going to talk about it in the next show with Isla. She's our house COVID specialist. So let's move on to the U.S. here. And again, Dems now, in case you haven't heard, people, what's happening now lately is that we have a lot of they're calling voter suppression going on. And they're already blaming their losses in 2022, which haven't even happened yet, on voter suppression, which isn't even happening. It's such a mind-blowing thing, Daniel. Let's play that video, Matt, please. Thanks.
Let's take a closer look at the decrepit, struggling, barely functioning guy in the White House who sees apparently Jim Crow around every turn. Remember Joe Biden, he once called African Americans predators on our streets. He worried that his precious children would grow up in integrated schools that he referred to as, quote, racial jungles, his words. He bragged that his home state of Delaware was, quote, my state's a slave state, he said. He worked hand in hand with America's most notorious racist to block the integration of our schools and busing. Robert Byrd, the former Klan leader, was Biden's mentor in the Senate. According to Joe and the rest of the Democratic Party, none of that matters. And now, according to Joe, millions of Americans are worse than Jim Crow, all because they support simple election integrity measures. Watch for yourself.
21st century Jim Crow assault is real. It's unrelenting. There's an unfolding assault taking place in America today, an attempt to suppress and subvert the right to vote and fair and free elections. The assault on free and fair elections is just such a threat, literally. I've said it before. We're facing the most significant test of our democracy since the Civil War. That's not hyperbole. Since the Civil War.
Wow. Since the Civil War. He's saying since the Civil War, we haven't seen anything like this. First of all, who's going to believe Biden, Daniel? You know what I mean? The guy's, he's already, you know, his head's already not in the game. We know that. He's got some serious mental deficiencies going on. We know that. Unfortunately, that's happening, and he's running our country. But something important that Hannity said here about this voter suppression, and it's that the fact is we are not suppressing anything. We are supporting integrity when it comes to voting. That's what we're doing. We are supporting the integrity of voting. What Biden is saying is that we're did you hear him in that speech just now? He just said it. We are suppressing the right to vote in free and fair elections. He is saying that we are suppressing people's right to vote. That is absolutely 100% a bold-faced lie. That is not what's happening here. We are trying to make sure that there's voter integrity. We know for a fact that it's still going on, Daniel, that there was voter fraud in the last voting cycle. We saw it. We have proof of it. They've been proving it over and over again. It went to the Supreme Court. It was shot down. But there's so much evidence of proof that it's going on that it's just ridiculous. We are not suppressing anybody from voting. We are making sure that we're keeping the integrity of voting in check by telling people you got to show an ID. You got to have a state of legal residence in the United States. You have to be a legal citizen that can legally vote and of legal age. That's all we're saying. And we're trying to steer away a little bit, well, a lot, I think, which is great, from mail-in balloting. Because guess what? The reason they want to push the mail-in ballot, this is what the left's trying to do, Daniel. They're trying to push mail-in balloting, and they're trying to push that you don't have to be a legal citizen to vote. You know what that means? Then their whole plan just came together. They don't have you. That means that if you were one of those hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants that they let pour in through the border, it's okay for you to vote. Guess who they're going to vote for, Daniel? They're going to vote for the party that's going to give them everything for free, and that's the Democratic Party. That's what socialism is, and that's what the Democratic Party represents. And that's the master plan here, man. We're trying to suppress nothing. We are trying to show and to continue to make sure that we have integrity when it comes to voting. I think you're on mute, Daniel. Got you.
Sorry.
Got you that time.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
Well, great points, David. Yeah. Well, I think the only thing that we're suppressing is illegal activities, illegal voting. That's the only thing that we're suppressing. What we are really doing is trying to enforce the integrity of this voting process. That's the core of this country. That's the core of our democracy. I think plenty of people will agree with that. And I think you're right about the Democrats, letting illegal immigrants and because they know that those illegal immigrants will, in fact, vote Democrat because the Democrats will offer them everything for free. Yeah, David.
Yeah, that's what it is, and it's you can see the whole plan coming together. Well, they're trying to make it come together, but the cool thing is, and if you've been keeping up with the news, which I know you have, and been following what's going on, people are catching on to it. The Democratic Party is definitely losing a lot of their momentum that they had, or they thought they had, going into this last election cycle, and it's going to end for them really soon, man. It's coming down to the wire here, and I don't think, well, I believe, honestly, in 2022, that the Republicans will take over the House again in the Senate. Thank God. And again, they're getting worried about it. The left is getting worried about this, and they're starting to say that if it does happen, it's because, and they know it's going to happen, and it's not because of what we're doing. It's because Americans want to make sure that what's happening when there is a voting process going on, that it's all done with integrity, and they don't want that, and they know it. They know their backs are to the wall. That's why we have a bunch of senators, lawmakers from Texas running to, literally leaving Texas altogether on a plane with cases of Miller Lite sitting in the seats to go party, so they can get out of their quorum, which was that there's a voting rights law going on in Texas that they're trying to pass. The Republicans are, that's made it all the way to the House, and it's going to pass. But if the Democrats get up and walk out, there's nothing they can do about it. Actually, there is something they can do about it, though, and it's that they can be asked by the Speaker of the House. Unfortunately, that's Nancy Pelosi, to go back to Texas, so that might not happen. We're looking at something that might go on until February of next year, they're saying, but I don't think it'll be that long. So let's play that video, and let's kind of fill in everybody exactly what's going on, and then Daniel and I will talk about that. So let's play the old Texas lawmaker video.
The Texas State Senate has passed its version of a major election bill, but it can't go anywhere until House Democrats return to the state. More than 50 Texas House Democrats fled to D.C. Monday to stop the vote on a new elections bill from happening. While in Washington, they are calling on Congress to pass federal voting rights protections. The election bills under consideration in the state would eliminate drive-through and 24-hour early voting and add ID requirements for vote by mail, among other things. I want to bring in Michelle Beckley. She's a Democratic member of the Texas House of Representatives from District 65. Representative Beckley, welcome. It's great to have you with us. First off, what is your reaction to this election bill passed by the Texas Senate?
We knew that was going to happen. They did not break quorum. The senators didn't break quorum. Nine senators have joined us here in Washington to help talk to the Congress and Senate about what exactly is going on in Texas and what the details are of the elections bill and why we felt the need to bring it to the national stage.
So the Texas House, which, of course, as you know, is Republican-led, has now ordered law enforcement to come and retrieve you and your fellow Democrats, and Governor Greg Abbott has also threatened to arrest you and the other Democrats. What's your response to that, first of all? Are you worried at all about it? And what will it take for you to go back to Texas?
So first of all, the governor cannot arrest us here in Washington, D.C., and all they can do is bring us back to the state house, and it's through the Speaker of the House. So the governor is incorrect in his statements there. We're just here fighting for our national right to vote, and we are going to continue to do everything, use every tool in our toolbox to make sure that Texans and nationwide, that the freedom to vote is good for everybody in the United States.
And so is your plan at this point to stay in D.C. indefinitely?
Right now we're going to stay until the end of session, which will be August 7th. And then hopefully we can have a national solution that will help Texans. And this is a national voter suppression targeted that is going on. It's just probably Texas already has it's harder to vote in Texas than it is in most other states. And so ours is just another level of a form of taking away your freedom to vote.
If I was the Texas state legislator, I probably wouldn't have Michelle Beckley as a representative speaking for me anymore, Daniel. I don't know if you listen to any of that, but nothing she said made any sense at all. It sounded like she didn't really know what she was doing there. Why she jumped on an airplane with all those other legislators and left Texas and left their jobs that, you know, they were voted into office to take care of their own jurisdictions, and they skirted those jobs. They're actually not working now at all. They ran to D.C. under the cover of their Democratic Party in D.C. so they wouldn't have to vote on this, what they're calling voter suppression. It's not. And another thing she said is they left because they're fighting against the right to vote. It made no sense at all. That's not even what this is about. This isn't about saying that you can't vote. It's saying to make sure that if someone is voting, that they're a legal voter. I don't understand, Daniel, why the left doesn't get this. I don't understand why it's a problem, but I do understand. I mean, you would say I don't understand, but I'm going to flip the script here and I'm going to tell you why. It's just because of what I said previously. Is the reason they don't understand is because, or they make you think that they don't understand, is because they're doing this to get those votes out of those people that illegally poured in through the border. That's what's happening here. It's so ridiculous, and this whole plane load of legislators completely cowardly. Although they were defended by Kamala. Kamala compared these people to Frederick Douglass, and and his work getting black men the right to vote. I mean, you can't even put the two in the same ballpark. It's so ridiculous. This is not voter suppression. This is again, as Hannity said, this is all about the voting integrity in the United States to make sure that everybody is a legal registered voter, and we're not, we don't have fake balloting going on. They know something's wrong. They wouldn't have looked into it that long if there wasn't something going on. What do you think about all this, Daniel?
Well, David, there are two things that she said that caught my attention. One was that she said she's willing to use everything in her toolbox to, prevent voter suppression. And what she's actually saying there, David, is that she's willing to use everything in her toolbox to prevent the U.S. voting process to be more secure and have more integrity. And the second thing that she said that caught my attention was that everybody should be able to vote, which if you hear that statement, you would probably think, oh, that's right, everybody should be able to vote. Is their right. But if you really think about it, should everybody be able to vote? Shouldn't they be over 18? Shouldn't they be at least U.S. citizens? Shouldn't there be some sort of requirement to, safeguard our democracy? Is it really too much to ask for at this point? All we're saying is that we want voter ID. We want to know who is voting and who is able to vote legally. Is that really too much to ask for? Apparently it is for their side, David.
Yeah, it is. And mail-in balloting used to be, this whole mail-in balloting was a nightmare because of what happened during COVID, because this happened during COVID, and they pressed the issue, and more people were scared to go out and vote, so they had to do mail-in balloting, and then all this stuff started unearthing itself. They found thousands and thousands of ballots in Pennsylvania that were counted after the deadline. There were so many things that were done wrong. Each individual voting facility was making its own rules, and each state was making its own rules. It was so out of control. It was so ridiculous. And right there, they should have just did a recount at that point just for that, or just do the voting all over again. This entire process was a complete mess from the gate. And now they're trying to make it even messier by covering up the fact that any of it happened. And they're saying also that it not only didn't happen, but we're going to continue this narrative by saying that you're suppressing us from having the ability and the right to vote. And that's simply
right, David.
not what's happening. It's not. Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I don't want to comment on what happened in the previous election. What I do want to talk about is the hypocrisy. If they truly want to talk about voter suppression, what voter suppression is worse than having your vote not count or having a bunch of illegal votes, overriding your vote? I mean, if we want to build a system, a voting system that is secure, that has integrity, and we want everybody's vote to actually count. That's a system that we should fight for. And whoever is against building that sort of safe and secure system, they are really fighting for true voter suppression, in my opinion, David.
Yeah, but the problem is that they don't believe that any of this really happened, even though there was proof of it showing right in front of their faces of this balloting and what was going on. So that's the issue. That's what we're dealing with right there, is the fact that they didn't think that there was anything wrong. It wasn't fraudulent. So there's nothing to fix, and that's it. And there's lots to fix. And going along with this, I have to comment on this because it was something that came up this week, and I probably should have played that video with Kamala and her. I probably played it on Tuesday, though. I'm almost positive I did, but these episodes kind of come together sometimes. But Kamala was saying that people in rural towns, how are they going to copy their IDs for their mail-in balloting if they don't have any Kinkos or Office Max near them? I think she said Kinkos. I don't even know if Kinkos still exists. So that was it. There's the left again saying that dumb hicks in rural areas and poor black people and white people don't have access to copy machines. So how are we supposed to get them to? You see what I'm saying here? It's such crap that she's trying to feed to everybody, and it's right in front of our faces, and it's unbelievable that the Vice President of the United States would even go there. So yeah, there's another part of this we're dealing with, and it gets so ridiculous that at some point even Democrats have to say, okay, that's kind of bad. I mean, it really is.
That's right, David. I truly believe that people on the left sides are changing their minds about voter ID at this point.
Yeah, I think everybody, I think most people, I mean, look, you have to have an ID for everything these days. You have to have an ID to get a library card. You can't tell me that you can't show some form of ID when you vote. It shouldn't be an issue at all. It should never, ever be an issue. Anybody can get an ID anywhere at any time. If you have a problem, maybe what they should do is find out who doesn't have an ID and then help them get one, because you can get a state ID for free. You don't have to pay for it. I don't believe you do. It's been a while since I've known anyone that's had one, or most people I know have driver's licenses, but it's an ID. Anybody can get an ID. Anybody can get one if you're a legal citizen. But that's the problem, Daniel. They're trying to get these people that aren't legal citizens the right to vote. And that's what the problem is, and that's what happens, and that's where voter suppression really comes in, is when you're cheating the system, which the Democratic Party did in this last election cycle, and they're still trying to do. So, people, there is no voter suppression going on. There's only the left trying to illegally vote. That's really what it comes down to. And that's, again, like Daniel said, where the voter suppression really comes in, is when you let them get away with this, and your vote really doesn't matter. It doesn't count anyway.
Exactly,
okay.
David.
So let's move on. We're gonna go right into China here. We got to talk about China. There's a couple big things going on in China right now. As Daniel mentioned earlier, the economy. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about something that's close to my heart, as everyone knows. We're going to talk a little bit about Xinjiang and a very, very, very huge moment in United States politics. If you haven't heard about it yet, this is a very, very big thing that's happening right now, and it's that the U.S. Senate passed a bill to ban all products from the Xinjiang region in China. Let's play that video now.
The U.S. Senate passed a bill on Wednesday banning products from China's Xinjiang region. It's the latest effort by Washington to punish Beijing for what U.S. officials say is an ongoing genocide there against Uyghurs and other Muslim groups. China denies mistreating Uyghurs and says the camps are vocational training centers needed to fight extremism. Under the current rule, the import of goods into the U.S. can be banned if there is reasonable evidence of forced labor. The bill assumes goods manufactured in Xinjiang are made with forced labor until proven otherwise and certified by U.S. authorities. The Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act was passed in the Senate by unanimous bipartisan consent. It was now past the House of Representatives before being sent to the White House for President Joe Biden to sign into law. It was not immediately clear when that might take place. Republican Senator Marco Rubio, who co-authored the bill, called on the House to act quickly. In a statement, he wrote, "We will not turn a blind eye to the CCP's ongoing crimes against humanity, and we will not allow corporations a free pass to profit from those horrific abuses." The bill's other co-author, Democrat Jeff Merkley, also said no American consumers should be inadvertently purchasing products from slave labor. Democratic and Republican aides expect the measure would get strong support from the House after it approved a similar measure nearly unanimously last year. Rights groups and Western officials have long maintained that Xinjiang authorities have facilitated forced labor by detaining around 1 million Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities since 2016.
So, Daniel, this is fantastic news. What I really love about this is what he said about bipartisan. So the left and the right finally came together on something, and they came together on something that, to me, is one of the most important issues in our world at this moment, not just in our country or in this hemisphere or in that hemisphere, in this world. And that is the world waking up to the fact that what we've been saying all along since day one here on The Fringe, that there's genocide going on in China in the western mountainous regions of Xinjiang against the people, against this Muslim autonomous zone of people in China. Now, for those of you that don't know about this, these are people that are put into these concentration camps that are built by the CCP, and they're given forced labor, and they're forced to learn Mandarin, the Chinese language. They're forced to learn the culture of China. They're forced to forego their own religion, their own families, and the women. There's been horrific reports of the women at these camps being raped, sodomized, men being sterilized, women being forced to have abortions after they're pregnant from these rapings. It's an unbelievable, just disgusting act of inhumanity that's going on to these people. And thank God we are finally meeting together on something in the middle. And what is more important than this? And what is a bigger victory for all of us than this? I'm really excited about this. This is what I've been waiting for myself, Daniel, for a really long time. And I'm really glad that this happened. It was unanimous. Like they said, it's bipartisan, unanimous. Went to the House, flew through there. Just get to Biden's desk and have him sign it. If he doesn't sign this, man, there's going to be, oh, my God. I'm sure he will. But one thing I wanted to say really quick before I let you go on this topic, Daniel, because I know you have probably something to say about it, too, is that the reason why the CCP built these concentration camps, they're calling them vocational rehab camps. They're not. They are actually concentration camps. The reason that they built these camps was because they're saying that the Uyghurs, these Muslim people, are extremists against Chinese people. But what the CCP fails to mention is the reason why the Uyghurs fought against the Chinese government was because they were being originally attacked by the Chinese government. So them retaliating is what got them the label of being extremists. So I just wanted to break that down for you and make everybody realize that these people are not extremists. They're people that are simply, like the people in Hong Kong, fighting for their right to live freely. And these people do not have it. So they've been labeled by extremists. These concentration camps were built, and here's where we are today. But finally, again, Daniel, we're coming back. We're coming together as a nation for once. Hopefully we can learn from this and come together a lot more and meet in the middle on a lot of other things going on with not only our country, but within the world. And this is not only a huge victory for us and for the Uyghurs, but it's a huge dent into the face of the CCP.
Great points, David. And you're right about this being, one of the best policies in recent U.S. history. I think it's about time we do something about the slavery that's happening in Xinjiang. And I really loved seeing this bill being bipartisan. You know, they were saying that this will likely pass in the House with no issues at all. And this is what we should be doing. As we discussed previously, we were saying that we need to starve the CCP financially, at least. And this is certainly a step in the right direction, David.
Yeah, it really is. And that is what really, when we've talked about this in the past, the CCP is greedy. They're thuggish. They're pretty much like the mafia they're the international mafia to the rest of the world. They push smaller countries around. They lie, they cheat, they steal. There's so much corruption in the Chinese Communist Party. And when it gets to a point, people kind of let it go. Well, you know, the CCP says they have a lot of money and China has a lot of money, and, you know, money speaks louder than words, as they say, and people don't really want to, you know, look at everything else. They kind of just want to say, okay, well, yeah, the CCP probably is a bad government and they are corrupt, but man, they got a lot of money, so let's just keep doing business with them. But the line was drawn in the sand, Daniel, when this genocide against the Uyghurs broke into the news media, and everybody's on board now. We were talking about it a long time ago here on the Fringe, and finally the mainstream media caught up to it. We only hope that happens with, again, it seems like it's starting to happen with the virus, that it was created in a lab in Wuhan. We know that now. The rest of the mainstream media is finally catching on to it. They were blaming Trump, Daniel, as you know, for being a xenophobe and a bigot and a racist, for even saying that it was something that came from China, which we all knew it did. I guess this is the big black mark against him was he called it the China virus. I would have much rather, you know, and I'm a Trump fan, and that's the one thing I never agreed with. I don't think you should, although it is from China and the Spanish flu came from Spain, no one seemed to worry about that. But in our modern age today, the way we are and people are so sensitive, you really can't say China virus, although that's what it is. CCP virus would have been much better because then that puts all the focus right on the CCP and people start thinking, yeah, the CCP.
That's right. CCP virus would definitely be a better name.
Yeah, and you're putting that attention again right on the CCP. So, which is what we need to do, and that's what needs to happen. So I think again, Daniel, this is such a huge step, and I just want to get your thoughts. What do you think? I mean, are you pretty excited about this? Like as a person from China and as a you know, having that Chinese nationality, what do you think about this? It's a proud moment, right?
Well, David, this is probably the best news I've heard all week. I can tell you that. And I am very, very excited about this and very happy about this. But at the same time, I think the U.S. should definitely keep and continue doing more things like this, David. Because this is not enough to put a huge dent in CCP yet. We need to keep going.
I think it's a good start though. They to me they put a dent in them, and the CCP is a lot bigger than we all probably, some of us even realize, because they've infiltrated not only other countries but they've infiltrated our country. You know, they've infiltrated as much as they can all over the world with money, and that's what it is with that BGY program. If you guys don't know what that is, you know, we know that the Chinese Communist Party has this program called BGY, blue, gold, yellow. They infiltrate you and they use you basically and seduce you with B, which is blue, which is by the internet, using a video that was filmed of you doing something illegal, possibly accepting money from them, which is gold, or Y, which is sexual favors, and then they film it and they use it against you, and they have something against you that they can, you know, use as a you know, for corrupt reasons against you to get you to favor them or do business with them. So that's a whole nother topic. But the point is, though, that I think this is definitely a very, very, very important humanitarian and big step toward that ultimate goal of taking down the CCP. And this affects them in more ways than one. It's not only that we all realize, and Daniel, this isn't the only genocide that China has going on right now. Let's not forget the genocide against the rest of the world, because they created this virus that killed millions of people and infected hundreds of millions and continues to do today, continues to mutate today, let's not only bring that up, but let's bring up the fact that we know that this is going to affect their bottom line. This is going to affect their economy. There was companies backing out of deals with Xinjiang, or now they're going to be told to by our federal government. So hopefully we won't be seeing a whole lot more of those little made in China things, and especially things that were created in Xinjiang. So again, and we've talked about this in the past, that to take down the CCP, you got to hit them where it really hurts. And it's the one thing that drives them. It's what motivates them, and it's what keeps them running, and it's money. We never know how much they have. That's the one thing, Daniel. We never know how much the CCP has. But we do know by the way that they react to things that they probably don't have as much as they say they have. So that segues nicely into our last topic here. And the second quarter this year, China's economic growth is slowing. And I'm sure that Xinjiang is going to help that further, even further along. There are positive and negatives, and I'll talk about that after we see this segment, after we see this video, to this happening in China with the CCP. But let's play that video first, and then Daniel and I will jump into this topic for you.
After posting record GDP growth in the last quarter, China's economy is now showing signs of slowing down. The world's second largest economy expanded 7.9% in the April to June quarter from a year earlier, according to official data released Thursday, falling short of analyst expectations. China was the world's only major economy to expand last year, thanks to solid export demands and strong policy support. But new challenges to that momentum have emerged. Spokesperson Liu Aihua said Thursday, the second quarter numbers indicate that domestic recovery is uneven.
In general, the national economy continued to recover steadily in the first half of 2021, stabilizing, strengthening, and improving. However, the domestic economic recovery is uneven, and efforts are still needed to consolidate stable recovery.
Higher raw material costs, supply shortages, and pollution controls are weighing on industrial activity, while small flare-ups of the health crisis around the world have restrained consumer spending. Further challenges are expected in the second half of the year as policymakers are considering whether to roll back stimulus money. One China economist noted that China's export boom appears to have peaked and will gradually unwind as many parts of the world begin to reopen. A customs official said this week overall trade growth may also begin to slow. Meanwhile, economists in a Reuters poll expected an 8.6% GDP expansion in 2021, which would be the highest annual growth in a decade, exceeding China's own official target at 6%.
The problem with the CCP in China, Daniel, when you're talking economics, is you never really know what the truth is. You think they really give the real numbers to what their economy really is or what they're doing monetarily? I mean, there's probably some way to find out, but you know they're not being honest. They never are. It's a party that lies about everything. So, but like I said, the way you can gauge what's going on is how they react with the rest of the world with other situations. Like, for instance, why would they want to take down the United States' economy by releasing this virus or other nations' economies? They know, they knew, I mean, this is biological warfare that's going on right now. They knew that if they released this virus, which they successfully did, that it would affect the economies of not only our nation, but nations all over the world. And it did just that. And they knew it. So they played their cards right there. But the other part of this is, now that nations are starting to catch on to the fact that the CCP is really this corrupt, and they really did do this, is they're starting to decouple slowly. And part of that, again, Daniel, was with Xinjiang, with us not accepting any goods from the Xinjiang region or any companies. We can no longer deal with China on that level, and I think it's going to expand to other things, and it will definitely affect their economy. But the negative part is to all this, as I wanted to say, the positive and negative of it. The bad part is when a country like China, like the CCP, which is probably on the tail end of their government, I really think the CCP is on the way out in the next year or two. when someone's going down, they're going to go down fighting. That's what the CCP is doing right now. The way I see it, Daniel, it's kind of an interesting perspective if you think about it. The reason why they released this virus is because their economy really is fledgling. They don't show you that. They're only showing you fake numbers about what's really going on, but they're really poor. They don't have as much money as they say they do, not nearly enough to compete. So in order to keep the competition at least at an even level, what do? You take out the competition. You kill its people. You destroy the economy of the other guy, and that makes your economy go higher. So that's one way they're doing it, I believe, Daniel. And the other thing that I think that they're doing that shows that this economy is fledgling, not only by releasing this virus to affect other nations' economies, it's that the fact that they are not being completely honest about everything, and the numbers really show that. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on that also, Daniel.
Well, David, I agree with you that the Chinese Communist Party is never honest. I mean, they deny putting people in concentration camps, and they deny releasing this virus, and now they're going to deny they're not going to show their true stats on the economy. That's absolutely right. And the second thing is, it is something to worry about, definitely, that as the CCP goes down, they're not going to go down without a fight. Since their economy is slowing down, they probably released the Delta variant, and they were hoping that the rest of the world would shut down again due to this more contagious, more infectious variant, so that they could do essentially 2020 all over again, because that's China was the only country that grew economically speaking. Sorry about that. In 2020. So they're probably hoping to pull that off again, David.
Yeah, so there it is. I mean, that's the case in point right there, is that they're really showing their cards by not showing their cards, and that's what's happening here. They're showing that their economy is struggling, and the way that they do that is by releasing these viruses that cripple other nations. So we either got to start fighting back against it, getting to the root cause of the virus, which is the CCP, try to find that cure, or we just sit back and let them continue to do this to us. Let's continually feed into it and destroy ourselves in the process. And that's definitely not where I want to see us going. So that's going to about wrap it up tonight. We're right at 8 o'clock here at the top of the hour. I'd like to see if there's any comments here that we can shout out to anyone. Everyone's just liking our live here. I kind of lost the connection for a second there. I got it back. So if anyone asked any questions, I apologize if I didn't get to you. It's something new we're doing here, Daniel. We might have talked about it on the show before, but interacting with our fringers out there and seeing if they have anything to say or want to say hi to us, or we can answer any questions they might have, or at least attempt to answer a question. But looks like it's Friday night and people are just kind of gearing up for the weekend here. So we're gonna close this one out tonight. I want to thank you, Daniel, for co-hosting tonight. Thanks so much for being with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again, David.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Good to see you again. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. All of our fringers out there that join us every Tuesday and Friday. Again, we are on Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on gtv.org, at MOS English, and on YouTube at gtv.org, or on YouTube at MOS Himalaya, MOS Talk. I want to thank again everyone for joining us. We really appreciate your patronage. Be safe, be free. God bless you and your families. We'll see you again next Tuesday with Isla. Take care.
CCP. $1, CCP.